We got a great rest of the afternoon for you. We're gonna kick it off with Shaf, and then we got a panel, and then we're gonna do some breakout sessions. So a lot of good stuff still to come. Up next is a man who needs no introduction because it is Shaf, but I'm gonna introduce him anyway because I like to hear myself talk. He is voted Mr. Content Marketing for 2015. That's not even a real thing. I just made it up. But damn if it doesn't sound good, right? It's funny, every time I introduce Shaf, I ask him if he wants to do a handshake or a half hug, and he always opts for the handshake with me, so I don't know whether to take that personally. But let's give it up for NewsCred's co-founder and CEO, my friend, Shafqat Islam.
All right, so I'm just going to do a very quick intro, and then we have a panel. So he totally made this up. I don't even know what he said, Mr. Content Marketing. It sounds like a calendar. So I want to take a couple seconds to explain why we're here. This is an amazing room. We have, I don't know, probably a couple hundred, maybe more marketers in the room here today in Chicago. I think a lot of you guys know that we're on tour. And one of the reasons why we put on these events is we feel like there's a lot of heroes inside of companies that are trying to do content marketing, but we know it's really, really hard. In fact, when we think about personas, just like you guys, we have personas of people we want to sell into. One of the personas that we often talk about is this persona of a revolutionary. It's people who are inside of large organizations, who are content marketers, who are kind of fighting the good fight, living the struggle every day, trying to get buy-in, trying to get budget, trying to educate their management, and it's just really, really hard. And we know how hard it is. And so the whole purpose of why I think content as a tour exists, and why we create all of this content, why we have our academy, is to bring together like-minded people who feel the same pains, who can help each other and really collaborate and create something special together, because we really believe that together, if we can get content marketing right, we can make marketing better. We don't think content marketing is an offshoot of marketing. We don't think it's a new channel. We actually think that content marketing will be marketing, and that's actually the way that consumers, that's the way customers actually want to be engaged with. And so we know it's tough, we know it's hard, and we know some days are going to be frustrated, but hopefully we can build a community together, both here in Chicago physically. We're going to be back here, invest a lot of time and attention and efforts and money to try to cultivate this community here in Chicago, but also across the US. So that's why we're here. I want to just take a couple seconds to talk also about why we think content marketing can make marketing better, and why we think that's important. I was just talking to someone outside, and we were talking about the rise of ad blockers. It's probably the largest boycott we've seen in human history, where I think there's now 200 or 300 million people who've installed ad blockers on their computer. Somehow along the way, marketing became the enemy of the people, where consumers started tuning it out, blocking it, ignoring it, and we don't believe that it needs to be like that. We think there's a huge opportunity for marketers to tell stories that are inspirational, that are educational, that are interesting, that are entertaining, just stories that people actually want to hear. And we believe that every single brand in this room, I don't care if you sell faucets or ball bearings or outdoor equipment or your Nike, or every brand has a story to tell. And we think the brands that are going to win in the future are purpose-driven brands who can tell the story of why they exist, not just what they sell. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you exist. And we think that's the big opportunity. And content marketing, what really gets us excited and hopefully gets you excited, is there's this opportunity to create this value exchange between the brand and the consumer, right? You create something that's useful or interesting or educational or inspirational. You give it to your customers, and in return, they're going to repay that in spades through attention and hopefully through dollars. And we think that value exchange, marketers have not just an opportunity, but almost a responsibility. This is how I would love you guys to think about it, not just as an opportunity, but a responsibility to do that education, to do that inspiration, There's an awesome study that Jim Stengel, the ex-CMO of Procter & Gamble, he looked at, I think, 10,000 brands over a decade and tried to identify, what's the common attribute of the fastest growing, most profitable brands in the world. And he looked at all sorts of things, like what kind of product they sell, how they go to market, business model, location, employees. And what he found was actually surprising, which was the only common attribute that the fastest growing companies have is those brands can connect with their customers at an emotional or aspirational level and tell the story of why they exist. And it doesn't matter if you are kind of Red Bull or Nike or P&G. We believe every brand can tell those stories. We think content is the best vehicle for it. So I'm just really, really excited that you guys are all here. We put on this summit in New York. We get 2,000 people to show up from around the world. And now we're taking this, on tour, and clearly all of you guys believe in that mission. So together, I think we can really make marketing better. I don't think it's just something fluffy. I don't think it's just something that is aspirational, that's not grounded in metrics. So our next panel, we're actually going to explore this a little bit, is how do you actually take all of these things that I said that sounds great, but make it reality? And so whether you're a B2B brand or a B2C brand, ultimately, you need to create great content, you need to be able to manage it, you need governance, you need approvals and workflows and calendars, you need to publish it, you need to measure all of this stuff. And so we're going to actually talk about like brass tacks, like how are brands actually doing that today, because I think a lot of you in the room just want to hear that. So I'm really excited to get David and Rob up here. We're going to be talking through kind of all of those phases of content marketing and how they do it tactically within those organizations. But before I do, give yourselves a round of applause for being here, for being the revolutionaries who are fighting the good fight, and just be bold, be creative, be ambitious. We think it's the right thing to do, and I think you'll leave the world in a slightly better place if we can create marketing that people actually care about. So thank you.